Today, we need to talk about the biggest news that has already occurred, which is that Northwestern will no longer be coached by Pat Fitzgerald. So this has moved Northwestern into a very interesting point in their football history. As you would understand that Northwestern has kind of been pretty doggone decent in football over the last decade or so, having played in the Big Ten championship game as recently as 2020 and having really put out a product that Northwestern fans could be proud of. But now with Pat Fitzgerald, who I think is the winningest or one of the winningest coaches in Northwestern history, no longer leading that program, there's a vacancy, there's a void for which they're going to have to find not just a familiar face, but a face that everybody wants to get behind leading this Wildcat program in the direction they were heading. Frankly, I mean, we're talking about perhaps one of the more decorated players in addition to coaches in Pat Fitzgerald, and a guy that I thought would, will be there as long as Kirk Ferentz is at Iowa for some reason or another because he's so tied to the program. However, if you are looking at the future of Northwestern football, and you're a Northwestern fan, so you are, lots of reasons for you to be excited, right? One of those is at the end of the 2023 season, they're going to begin breaking ground on an $800 million project that is going to lead to new facilities that involve, among others, a new stadium. They've been playing at Ryan Field for the better part of 100 years. They played 97 years. They played at Ryan Field. And now they're going to build a new facility that's going to take 12,000 seats down, but also make it a packed house at 35,000 with a roof that refracts noise. I like to think that that's just going to make it into a tin can. And if that makes it something that is similar to Lucas Oil Stadium, that's going to be a Rockets place. Having been to Lucas Oil Stadium a couple of times for Big Ten championship games, I can tell you, man, I can't hear myself think there when folks are going crazy. And if that's the atmosphere that you're trying to create for Northwestern football, you're in a really good place. I think the other part about this that is really interesting is they have the backing from the Ryan family and others. And in this new TV agreement that the Big Ten just signed, lots of levers to pull in as far as, okay, what do we want Northwestern football to be in the future? And this stems from not just your identity, but also what your offense and your defense looks like. If you watch Northwestern football, you know that it's mostly 3 yards in a cloud of dust. Now you get to kind of move away from that if that's something that you want to do, in addition to keeping your really, really outstanding academics on track. I mean, anybody that knows Northwestern knows about Northwestern's journalism school and how much they value it, and frankly, how many great journalists have come out of it. If you can get that sort of excellence from your journalism school over to your college football team, I think you're going to be very excited about it. Other part to take into account here is I think we need to take a look at who they're going to make at least the interim head coach as they get started going into preseason camp, and whether or not that coach gets an opportunity to win the job. We saw this last year with Nebraska and Mickey Joseph. They ultimately went with Matt Rule. We also saw this last year with Wisconsin with Jim Leonard. They ultimately went with Luke Fickell. And that's usually how these things go. The interim does not usually get to stay on as the head coach. And if he does, it's not usually your long-term commitment. It's usually a year or two to get you to the next person that you want to actually have an imprint on the program. I think that you're playing with found money this year if you're a Northwestern football fan too, right? Last year, the joke is they did not win a game inside the continental United States, right? They go to Ireland, they win a football game against Nebraska. Okay, cool, right? That's the joke. But as the Big Ten continues to get bigger, with 16 teams coming in 2024, and as we're leading toward 2 power conferences in the SEC and the Big Ten, you still have an opportunity here because Northwestern is leagues ahead of, say, Vanderbilt, which I like to think is the comp there, right? You're looking at the academically sound, rich institution that you really want to know, is it going to pull its weight in football? You're probably going to compare Northwestern to Vanderbilt, and I think Northwestern is head and tails above where Vanderbilt is relative to their station, the SEC, relative to their station in the Big Ten. You also get an opportunity to, if you need to do some healing, right? You get an opportunity to grieve, to talk through some issues that the university itself is still having to work out, and you get to reset. And I think they're in a great place to do that because their athletic director is Dr. Derek Gragg, who is a man that I have tremendous respect for, and I count as a mentor. He was the athletic director at the University of Tulsa, and in between being the athletic director at the University of Tulsa and the athletic director at Northwestern, he also worked in the NCAA, and his background is in compliance, which is, another way of saying he wants to do this right. He wants to do this the right way every step of the way. And I think he's going to be in a really good spot to help Northwestern figure out what is next for its football program, which I need to say is in a really great place despite severing ties with Pat Fitzgerald as the head coach. Other part about this that I love about Dr. Gragg's background is he played football. He played wideout at Vanderbilt. So he understands what it means to play football at a program that might not be the best athletically, but certainly has a very rich history academically, and what's it going to take to get him to that next level, both at Vanderbilt as a player and then at the University of Tulsa, where I went to undergrad. We're not too proud to say it, like to think of ourselves as the Harvard of the Midwest, even though there's only one Harvard and it ain't in the Midwest. You get the point there, right? That's what you're trying to do at Northwestern. I'm also very curious to see just what some of the recruits have to say about what's going on, how they're going to stay committed. I've already heard from some that say, I wanted to go to Northwestern. I think I still want to go to Northwestern. I think that's good news. I think how this is being handled over the last couple of weeks is also, or I should say even the last week, has been pretty decent, all things considered, right? Like, you're in a tough spot here as a Northwestern fan trying to root for your football program, and I understand that. I understand feeling conflicted. I was conflicted this time last year when Cale Gundy was forcibly removed from the Oklahoma football program, and that really hurt me. I even broke down in tears here on the show talking about it because it's your program, right? There's not a whole lot of things that mean more to us as graduates of a university than our football program, especially if we are season ticket holders. And I'm speaking to you specifically if you're a Cats fan. I think the next steps are crucial, right? The next steps need to be about repairing, right? Understanding what your new protocols are and understanding why some of the things that they have been reprimanded for by their university matter. Like, I'm going to point out some of these things that I think need to be talked about or at least mentioned when President Schill said, hey, we're going to do some things like mandatory annual training along the lines of hazing, which is allegations that were levied at the Northwestern football program while Pat Fitzgerald was head coach. Reason to believe those two things are related in why he was relieved of his duties. But they also don't get to practice at Camp Kenosha anymore, which inside of Northwestern is a very big deal, right? They go to Camp Kenosha each preseason camp to bond, right? To enjoy each other and to get away in a very, remember the Titans 2-a-days kind of situation where it's just them, it's just the program, it's just the football team as they prepare to try to put an assault on a Big Ten football schedule, right? I think that they're going to have to find new traditions. They're going to have to find new ways of not just talking to each other, but talking to the public about what they're doing. And this is going to be hard, but it's necessary. And I think you can do it. I think you're going to be in a good spot. So when we get back to talking about Northwestern football come Big Ten Media Days, I'm sure we'll have more to discuss. But this is where I wanted to take the conversation. I wanted to move it forward. I wanted to talk about what Northwestern football could be. And future is actually pretty doggone bright. You just got to make the right step the next couple of ways here. Thank you for watching the #1 college football show. Please remember to subscribe to the channel and like this video so that you don't miss any of the best college football coverage in America.